So right now, as I took the screenshot, it's just over 8,000% APY, which translates into APR. If you take Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin makes no revenue, zero, zilch. Nor does Ethereum or Cardano, they don't make revenue. Whereas this does. You have to treat this like a company. This is a company that is issuing its own stock to people, and you can stake it. And it is also making revenue, which is, like, again, a pretty novel thing in the world of crypto. And because it's a DAO, everything is transparent. Everything. Everyone can see every little transaction. Everyone can see the code. It's completely open source, like Bitcoin. Whereas if you took, Vodafone or Tesla, you can't see what they're doing with their money. So publicly listed companies on the stock market are very obfuscated, really obfuscated. You only see the quarterly reports and year-end reports. That's all you see with a company like Aviva or whatever. You don't know what they're doing with their money. For example, Apple, they've had 2,000 car engineers for the last 6 years. Not many people know that. Because they've been trying to, and failing, to build an automated self-driving car. But yeah, so this is a revenue-generating business. Think of it as a business. And it's making roughly $16 million per day in revenue. That's just insane. And it's another reason why the market cap and the treasury is on an exponential growth so far. Another reason why it's such a high APR is because, yeah, there's a great runway. And so obviously, the more money it makes every single day, the treasury increases, and therefore the runway increases. And so at the moment, if everything were to grind to a halt and go to zero, it can maintain an 8,000 APR for 300 plus days. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's created this beautiful positive flywheel. So as the price grows, this will attract more bond purchases, or in fact, it will attract more bond purchases as it goes down as well. So people would always want a discount. More treasury assets. And then more sustainable staking yields, as in the runway will get longer and longer. More belief in OHM's future, and it's this ever-looping sort of cycle of awesomeness. And I don't know who said it, but this is a quote, someone was talking about Bitcoin in the early days, and they said, every day Bitcoin doesn't go to zero, it's another day it will never go to zero. And that really does apply to OHM as well, because this is the game changer in the decentralized finance space. Right, now let's talk about APR, APY. APR is the rate, okay? So if you're making, let's say 12% APR, because it's linear, you can literally divide it by 12 and go, I'm making 1% per month. Does that make sense? You can literally divide it. With APY, you can't, because APY accounts for compounding interest. So at the moment, the rate of OHM, or Olympus DAO, I'll just call it OHM, is 1.21% per day. So whatever money you put in, you're going to make 1.21% per day. So some people may think, oh, okay, what that means is I'll probably get 365-ish% per year. Wrong. Because you're compounding on a day, or no, you're actually compounding every 8 hours, not every day. Every 8 hours you are compounding. Therefore, with a daily 1.2% rate, that turns into an 8,000% APY because of the compounding interest factor. So this is the bit to sort of get your head around. But this is why everyone talks in APR, because it's linear, whereas people don't understand exponential. And so here I want to just labor the point of the time frame in which you compound really matters, okay? So if you were to start with 10 OHM, and you're basically going to do 1.21% per month, at the end of sort of 12 months, you would have 11.41 OHM. You wouldn't have much. But if you were to compound it on a weekly basis, you'd end up with more OHM. And if you were to compound it on a daily basis, that's actually a daily basis, because I did it on a spreadsheet, you'd end up with about 800 OHM after a year. But in reality, this is compounding every 8 hours, and so you get a little bit more. So that is the beauty of, I guess, compounding interest, and also the unit of compound. So if you have a mortgage, let's say you have a house, one of those horrible houses, if you have, sorry honey. So let's say you have a mortgage, and if your mortgage is done on a daily basis, if you were to pay off every single week, you'd actually pay off your mortgage a lot faster. You could wipe off several years if you pay off a little bit faster. But it depends on what your mortgage is. Is it rated on per year, per month, or per day, or per week? So, and here's the other beautiful thing, which I love, because I'm all about risk mitigation. I know some of you think I'm sort of some gambling junkie. I'm not. I take very calculated risks. So here's a little staking calculator. So let's just say today you bought 10 Ohm for, I don't know, $1,100 each. So you've got $11,000 in Ohm right now. What this means is if you sat still and did nothing, after 365 days, you'll have 128.16 Ohm. Okay? That's the only thing it can guarantee. It can guarantee you that you'll have that many Ohm in 365 days. No one can guarantee you the price. Okay? So that's the only sort of real constant here. You know what you're going to get if you just stake and sit still. And at the moment, you sort of break even in 100 days. Actually, no, this is, so I've changed the APY here because we're having that step down in January, down to about 1,000%. So if you take the next 2 months and then at 8,000%, and then it drops down to about just under 1,000%, it works out over the next 12 months, you will average 1,100 odd percent. So if you were to do this right now, you'll effectively break even in 100 days. So your $11,000 will turn into 22. And yeah, but here's the beauty. We don't know what the price will do. So let's say we have a 90% price crash. So it goes from $1,100 down to $100. And by the way, that's below the backing price right now. That's way below the backing price. So I don't see that happening. Well, guess what happens? Yes, your equity would have got absolutely destroyed in that, let's say it happened right now. But look, over 365 days, we know you're going to get 128 Ohm. And even if it stays at $100 forever, you'll still make a profit. You will still make a profit over the space of a year, even with a 90% price crash. I mean, this is like a gift from the heavens in terms of risk mitigation. You don't get this with Bitcoin. You don't get this with any other crypto. Well, other than the ones trying to copy them. Because right now, there's literally an explosion of rebasing DAO cryptos out there, trying to copy what Olympus is doing. So this is another thing which attracted me to this. So yeah, $1,000, you can still make a profit even if the whole thing crashes. And that's the thing with value. Value has two variables. People think value is price. There's two variables. The quantity of whatever you have times the price. So the thing that Olympus is doing is they're going, right, we can't control price, but we can control the volume or the quantity of something. So that's the thing. If you can drive the quantity up, no matter what the price does, you're going to do okay. Even with, I think I've worked out, with something like a 97% price crash, you'll still break even after a year, which is pretty cool. Mind you, being me, a trader, if price started crashing, I wouldn't just sit there. I would actually just sidestep it, as you know. Now, this is where it comes into the whole, not sure if this is revolutionary or a Ponzi, and this is the exact same thing that sort of got me onto this path. So let's address some of these issues. This is just a fancy crypto Ponzi. Okay, that's my first thought. So I Googled Ponzi scheme, because everyone has a negative connotation on what a Ponzi scheme is, but very few people actually understand what a Ponzi scheme is. So I'll read this out. A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investing scam that promises high rates of return with little risk to investors. Ooh, that's my first red flag there. A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investing scam which generates, in fact, I'll do bit by bit. Okay, first of all, fraudulent investing scam. This is not fraudulent at all. Nothing is obfuscated. Normally with Ponzi schemes, you can't see shit. With this, you see everything. Promises high rates of return. That's the only thing it sort of falls down on. Yes, it does promise high rates of return, but it's all open there. And you can see the emission schedule, and you know that it's going to step down as the thing grows. If it was to stay at 8,000% APY forever, I would be very concerned. But the fact that it steps down based on supply and demand, then little risk to investors. Okay, the fact that you get, yeah, I guess there is little risk because you're getting more Ohm every year, but I think the main thing here, fraudulent investing scam, that is not. A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investing scam which generates returns from early investors with money taken from later investors. This is similar to pyramid schemes in that both are based on using new investors' funds to pay earlier backers. Again, it's not the case here. This is a revenue-generating protocol. So it makes revenue from the bond, for the bonding thing, and it has a thing called bond as a service. So they've just released something called Olympus Pro. So other projects can come in and use Olympus as a technology to help other projects own their own liquidity as well. So it makes commissions. So yeah, it's a revenue-generating thing. Both Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes eventually bottom out when the flood of new investors dry up and there isn't enough money to go around. At that point, the scheme unravels. Yeah, that's normally the case with Ponzi's, but we have a treasury, an open. I cannot stress enough how important it is that everything is open source here. You can literally go online and look at the treasury right now, and you can look at the code behind it. And no one can interfere with it because it's code. So yeah, if everything were to dry up, that's why they have that runway there. And the treasury will automatically just keep paying whoever is staking. And if everyone quits staking, your APY will go up. So guaranteed promise high returns, there is no guaranteed promise of anything other than the fact that you'll get OHM if you stake it. Consistent flow of returns regardless of market conditions. This is where Bernie Madoff went wrong. He promised 12% per year every year, and he did it for like 20 years. You cannot make a consistent ROI when the market changes. Markets go up and down. You can't have a consistent return. Olympus doesn't give a consistent return. It's all due to supply and demand, or demand and supply. Investments have not been registered with the SEC. Okay, this is not registered with the SEC, but it doesn't mean it's a scam. This is like, the beauty of the DAO, it's not based anywhere. It's not based anywhere. So I guess that it falls foul of that, but I mean, barely any crypto is registered with the SEC unless it's a stable coin, really. Investment strategies that are secret or described as too complex to explain. I guess if you don't know anything about crypto, this could be quite complex, but if you're already a crypto-savvy person, it just takes a little while to get your head around the different tokenomics. But the thing is, nothing is secret. I cannot stress that enough. Clients not allowed to view official paperwork for investment. Again, everything's online and open. Clients facing difficulties removing their money. This was my main concern. Whenever you get into a small project, getting in may look great. Your dashboard may look like you're making loads of profits, and then you can't get out. Well, it owns its own liquidity, and so you can. And I'll show you in a bit that loads of people have exited. Now, the other red flag that I had is that it's an anonymous team, and they could rug pull or dump their tokens at any minute. This was a big concern of mine. The thing is, this is trying to become the global reserve DeFi cryptocurrency. It's trying to be a backed reserve currency for the DeFi space, the decentralized finance space. And anyone in that scene is basically going to battle with the banks. And so what happens, I mean, the prime example of that is Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg tried to create Facebook coin, or Libra coin, which is basically going to kill Visa, SWIFT, the dollar payment network. And guess what happened? They destroyed it. What's happened to the Facebook coin? It just died a death, and all of its backers suddenly exited. So there's pressure with all, MasterCard and all that. They all exited. So this is why a lot of DeFi projects now are launching with an anonymous team. So it is a red flag, but they're doing it for their own safety. And I actually think for something of a scale of this size, it's actually a good thing that no one can go and assassinate them. Now, the interesting thing here is Zeus is a 17-year-old coder. This guy is a wizard. This guy is like freaking Mark Zuckerberg, but for crypto. Or Vitalik Buterin. By the way, Vitalik Buterin was 18 years old when he created Ethereum. He's 17. However, Apollo is this really seasoned. So he started off building the internet back in the early sort of 80s. Then he became a quant, so he's an algorithmic trader. So he created bots for the last 20 years for banks. Then he set up his own hedge fund. Then he sold his hedge fund, and he's now doing this. So you've got this like old and young guy, and they're a good pair. Now, here's the other thing. What tends to happen with crypto projects is that the founders will get 10 to 25% of the tokens and a vesting schedule. Like with the normal businesses, founders are vested for 4 years and then they could dump. And a lot of cryptos, they've sort of just copied and pasted, normal company exit procedures into their cryptos. And so normally around year 4, the founders go, woohoo, we got all our tokens. What are they going to do? They sell. And then they have a big price dump. So there's normally a bit of sort of uncertainty around year 3.5, 4 when founders dump. The thing with here, which actually really shocked me, is that they, in a good way, they have locked up their founders' tokens, not by time, but by targets. They cannot exercise any of their targets until there is over 2 billion circulating ohm out there. 2 billion. There's only 3 million ohm out there right now, which means they won't be able to get their supply for another 3 to 5 years, depending on the growth. And by then, that means the founding team will walk away conservatively at least $50 billion. Yeah, which is just nuts. So why would you rug pull? And by the way, you can see who owns what in what wallets. They've already got thousands of ohm in their own wallet. So each of them individually are making probably at least $100,000 a day anyway. There's no reason to rug pull. So they're making $100,000 per day, and if they carry on doing this, they're going to set to make $50+ billion over the next 3 or 4 years. They're very much behind the project. I mean, wouldn't you? So, yeah, and the other concern I had was probably fake numbers. You can't even sell. Well, check this out. This was literally a few weeks ago. This was amazing. Now, people see big dumps like this and go, oh my God, this is horrendous. I'm not touching this with a barge pole. This, to me, was just like, this solved one of my fears. I thought, because when I got into this, it was just up, 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 up. I thought, okay, it hasn't been stress tested yet. Can people exit? And then we had a liquidity event. So one whale basically killed another whale. So a big whale up here, we hit an all-time high of about 1350, and a big whale dumped a whole bunch of ohm and took profit. But by doing that, that person dropped the price far enough that another whale was liquidated who was levered up to the eyeballs. So this other whale it's called a rarefuse. He had basically taken out loads of crypto loans to lever up his own position or her own position. And as the price fell, that whale got liquidated to the tune of $24 million. So someone lost $24 million in liquidations. And so from up here to down here, that was around just over $30 million worth of sell orders like that. Now, normally that would have killed a project, especially a 7-month-old project. That would have killed it. But what happened? The protocol kicked in, API went up, it did everything as it was supposed to, and then we had this lovely falling compression, which you all know I love, and then this is what's happened. It's great.